You know him, you love him, and now we have him at VSiN, the Vegas Stats and Information Network. It helps to be connected, and nobody knows more of the bookies in Las Vegas than Brent Musburger. It's My Guys in the Desert with the legend of the guys behind the counter, broadcasting only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network at vsin.com and SiriusXM Channel 204. And now, the best of My Guys in the Desert.
Folks, welcome to our best of edition of My Guys in the Desert. Happy holidays to you and yours. What a fall this has been. All the sports colliding, plenty to bet on, a lot to talk about, and some great discussions here with My Guys in the Desert. Vinny, Jimmy, and Chris. What great stories, what great information. And here now are some of our favorite segments from this fall. Enjoy. You know, full disclosure, I've had the Dodgers for 6 or some weeks to win the World Series. And so in Game 6, I hedged, took Verlander, lost the hedge, and then lost the series bet last night. But I got my money's worth. Tremendous World Series. But, Chris, the Dodgers just didn't trigger last night in Game 7.
You know, we going into this series, I think one of the big advantages we all kind of had accepted was the fact that the Dodger bullpen was much superior. And that didn't come to fruition. And I don't know if it's just they got to look at so many pitches from an overuse of the bullpen or not. I mean, I heard that as one theory. Like I said, I don't want to pretend like I know anything about baseball, but you know that I could see where maybe that would be. You know, and then Morrow, I think he used him terribly in that one game when they said they weren't going to use him at all. And I don't, and I think at the beginning of the series, I think I said to you, Brent, I said Roberts deserves a lot of credit. Might have been to Vinny, but I said Roberts deserves a lot of credit for not just having a good bullpen, but using it very well. I don't think he used it very well in this series.
Well, and on top of that, what compounded things for the Dodgers, Darvish. So do the comparison, Darvish to the Dodgers, well, during the regular season and in most of the postseason, produced compared to Verlander, right? Those two guys, if you look at head-to-head, obviously the edge wound up being with Verlander. I mean, Darvish in 2 starts was just, was a disaster, unfortunately, for the young man. And the other part of it is, let's remember this. The Astros, to their credit, and I thought Dave Roberts was very classy last night in his post-game comments, both about his team and the Astros. The Astros won 2 games in Dodger Stadium.
Yes, they did.
And you know what? They beat Darvish last night. They beat Darvish in Houston early. I thought that he would be a lot better last night, as did Dave Roberts and all Dodger fans. But hey, credit the Astros. What a great story.
Definitely.
Don't forget, a few years ago, and we've chronicled the cover, the Sports Illustrated cover, they were a AAA team.
Well, I'll tell you what, give the owner credit, too.
Did a great job.
For sticking with, they came to him with a plan, told him things are going to be bad for a while. He accepted it, and his guys came through. But, I mean, we could see this coming, from like last year.
Yeah,
so
good point, Chris.
This was a team coming.
Well, when you think about it, right, young talent built through the draft, through trades, a good farm system, a lot of – and Gil can attest to this, a lot of analytics and sabermetrics. I have to tell you, I think they're the blueprint today. Certainly something to really be mindful of in terms of other teams and how they're going to move forward.
Yeah. As I was driving around town, yesterday was a day off, and going to clean up a little bit of business here because I kept hearing that this unidentified mystery bettor had closed $14 million and had bet every game correctly around town and had made the rounds betting. Okay, and I said, "Wow, that's amazing. I haven't heard about this guy." Mattress Mac came in. I knew what he was doing. The ticket brokers came in. They leveraged. First of all, there is no such thing as a mystery bettor in Las Vegas. You walk up, and there you can see, if you're watching vsin.com, Matt Humans did a tremendous job.
Yes, he did.
Going around town to find out the amount of money that was bet, on the World Series. MGM, million, CJ Technology, $600K, win $600K. William Hill, $500K. Right here at South Point, $350. And over at the Westgate, $50K. You're not making any 14 mil off of that.
Let me tell you another thing about, and I say this, I know Matt a little bit. I don't, know him super well. Everybody in town trusts Matt. The bookmakers in
He's
town.
thorough.
Because you tell Matt something, and he'll tell the truth. He's not going to say a bunch of, we know another guy who maybe didn't do quite the same thing.
Right. The great exaggerator.
Yeah,
okay.
the great exaggerator. Matt Humans will tell you the truth.
The great
Or put down the truth.
exaggerator then goes up on, I think it was Doug Gottlieb's
Yes, he did.
show. And basically, he accuses Chris Andrews of seeing the guy walk over toward the counter. Well, that's kind of counterproductive. This guy's this mystery guy with this accent. Everybody in town knew who this guy was. Let me first of all, let me throw that out right now. You show a driver's license when you're betting something like that. They want to know who you are and where you're from, et cetera, et cetera. So that he then turned around and walked out because somehow, my guy, Chris Andrews, changed the odds on him. Chris, every casino keeps a timeline on every bet that's made. It
Every
comes
bet
off
is
the
documented.
computer. This is a regulated state. The great exaggerator didn't know what he was talking about. Walk us through what went on with this bettor.
I have it here on Monday. And by the way, didn't you give this all to Jeff Fogel yesterday? I did, but I was off yesterday, and I didn't. And I told Jeff, and it didn't get in the article. Why would it? I said, I might be a little off on the numbers because everything was happening so fast, but I might be a little off.
You think there's a couple of numbers in your head?
One
How could
or
that
two.
be?
Yeah. Anyway, on Monday, the guy came in. I had minus 107 on the board. His first bet, minus 107 to win $30,000. Now, I told him that day, I says, I'm going to move the line 8 cents. And, of course, I don't make anybody make a bet. I move the number, and if you want to bet, you could bet. If you don't, you can walk out. And he says, oh, no, okay, that's all right. So I go to 15, he bets it. I go to 23, he bets it. I go to 30, he bets it. Now, at that point, I started feeling a little sorry for him. I was moving at 8 cents. Now I started moving it only a nickel. I go to 35, he bets it. I go to 40, he bets it. I go to 45, he bets it. I go to 50, he bets it. Now, the big discrepancy is I wasn't moving both sides of the line. Let me explain to you why. And here I got 2 sheets of limit bets in about 20 minutes. And I had 41 bets, they average about 5,000 each. So while this guy was betting me $313,500 to win 240, I had another 200,000 back the other way. Now, if I'm screwing customers, who exactly am I screwing? If guys, the sharpest guys in town couldn't get enough of the he had the.
He had the Dodgers.
He had the Dodgers. They couldn't get enough of Houston while I'm taking these bets. So 200,000. Now Tuesday, this one's a little quicker.
Go ahead.
Tuesday he comes in and I told him, I says, I don't you didn't give me as much time, but I'll give you 20,000 to a number.
There you go.
Still a pretty decent bet.
Yep.
And again, he didn't blink. First bet minus 127. So I moved it 7 cents because he only bet 20. Then he bet 34 minus 34, minus 41, minus 48, and so that it came to 100,000. And I got the other bets the other way. We only took back 50 the other way, and like I explained to Brent, because we had ourselves in such a position where we had Verlander, and I'm not going to give the exact number, but we had Verlander plus 450 as they went to post. And I'm thinking, well, if you can't take Verlander plus 450, you should get out of this business. So, guys were betting me like crazy. It was fast. It was furious. And like I said, I got everything documented right here. And if we go to court, I'll be more than happy to show you.
When somebody comes in and accuses a casino of acting like this, I call his lawyer. Okay?
Well, I'm going to go show Mr. Gone.
I'm going to tell you, there's no doubt about it, because he's accused you of, listen, there's strict regulations in this state. But guys,
listen,
you have to behave properly. You can't be gerrymandered. This guy never turned around and walked out of this casino.
Well, first of all, it's just a complete falsehood. I don't want to say any more than that, but just what he said was false. It was patently untrue. And the second thing is, your customers are going to tell you what you're doing, if it's right or wrong. Now, if I got 200,000 in about 20 minutes, while this guy's betting me 300,000 the other way, I would say I was taking care of customers on both sides.
Listen, recently, Andrea Kramer, who did a good piece for HBO, Real Sports, Brent Gumbel's piece, featuring you, Brent, and VSiN and the South Point on legal sports wagering. She followed that program up, that interview, with an appearance on VSiN, and we asked her one of the things, the questions we asked her was, what surprised you the most during your research? And if you recall, what she said was, the amount of detail that goes into everything you do and how it's documented and how much oversight there is. To get back to Matt Humans, what Chris said, it's about credibility. Let me tell you the people that are credible in this business. Those of us that make the lines, those of us that take the wagers, the folks on the other side of the counter that make the wagers and come up and know that they're going to get paid. Those who are not credible are wannabes who pretend to be insiders, and they don't know the difference between being an insider and being out on the sidewalk right now looking up at the sky.
Right. And there are, let's be perfectly honest about some of these guys who sell picks. What we try to do at VSiN, we make picks in there, but we're not selling you. And when you go up and you subscribe to Point Spread Weekly, we try to give you some information to help you make up your own mind. Do not buy these dudes. And the great exaggerator has been doing it for a long time, okay? And he's got a long list of names up there. And what they do is they push the one name forward that's coming off a good week. There's nothing easy about handicapping and betting on sports. Great recreation. But if anybody tells you that they've got inside information and they've got all the picks, take a walk to the nearest exit as fast as you can.
Run.
Because if anybody knows, he ain't telling you. He's coming to the window, and he's going to bet Chris, or he's going to go down to the Wynn and bet John Avello, or he's going to go over to the Westgate and bet Jay Cornegay, and he's not telling you because he's got his price, and that's how you make money, all right? So it's mind-boggling, and as though these guys, he also said, they call each other, these bookies, they talk to each other all over town. Look at a computer. You can see what's being bet all over town. I can go back here, back of the book. I can go over to Jay Carnegie's place. I go over to John Avello's place. I can go up to the Palms. There's no great secret. This is a regulated business. So let's get to the bottom line. You draw a lot of attention to yourself when you throw $14 million out there. The Associated Press goes with it. Yahoo goes with it. MLB talks about it often, and it's all bullshit. I would say that this guy probably made $3 to $3.5 million, judging from the money that was up there. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah. On Game 6, about $3 million.
That's about right.
Yeah, I don't know what he did beforehand, but I can tell you this: he did never lose a game with us, and he bet us 5 of the 7 games.
How about our guy Mattress Mac? How did he do it, Ron?
He did okay. Now, I don't know what his figures are on the mattresses because I think that's a pretty high number because he guaranteed free mattresses if the Houston Astros won the World Series. So he was
$10 million, I think, is what Rick Jaffe is signaling me over there.
Oh, really? I have to tell you though, I met him. I got to talk to him a little bit. And not only was he a nice guy to meet, a lot of guys are nice guys to me, and maybe not elsewhere. But, when all that stuff was going on in Houston, the flooding, he opened up his stores for people to come in and
his
refugees.
Stores were shelters.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah.
The Gallery Furniture Chain, I believe is the name of it, down in Houston, okay? And he's a known guy.
Oh, yeah.
Up here in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah. He was a horse owner, owned the horse, Run Happy, who was one of the fastest horses I ever saw. He won the 6 furlong sprint, I believe,
Breeders'
at
Cup
the
sprint, right?
Breeders' Cup. Yeah. He won the Breeders' Cup sprint. I think it was at 6 furlong.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So good guy. I wasn't particularly rooting for him, but that's the way it goes.
But he got paid.
Once again, he definitely got paid.
Credibility.
And by the way, I was off yesterday, and when you call Mr. Gone and give him the figures, how much we need it for? Okay,
Oh, listen.
That's about it.
Talk about credibility in this city.
Yeah.
This gets thrown around. Let me tell you something about the owners of this casino, okay? And let me tell you about Michael Gaughan's father, who was one of the original founders of the El Cortez. There's no more credible people in this town. Go around town, go anywhere. Ask the other operators around here, okay? The South Point, credibility? You got to be kidding me. Will they take a big bet? You bet they will. On all of these bets. So you get a fair price?
Well,
you bet it. And when I swore that, that somehow the odds makers at the South Point had rigged the odds because they thought they had a fishing from, I said, that doesn't happen.
I'd be swinging from the marquee by my neck right now if Michael Gaughan found out I did something like that. Exactly. And the ones, I know I've told this story before. We took the $1 million bet on Mayweather, and we took the bet. Michael Gaughan called in 2 minutes later, and thank God Ryan Groundy took the call. But Ryan says, this so-and-so wanted to bet $1 million. And Michael right away says, well, I think we should take the bet. And Ryan says, well, that's good to know because we already took it. We're counting the money right now. And Michael's response was, Jackie Gaughan would be proud. And that is the truth.
Remember this, the great exaggerator in our business, in our world, a non-starter. That's all.
That's it.
There we go.
And in closing, according to an article I read, the great exaggerator's real name is Randall James Busack. Have a nice day, Randall James. Back live, vsin.com, Sirius XM 204.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com. Welcome back to the best of My Guys in the Desert with your host, Brent Musburger.
Vinny, we welcome in the real legend.
There he is.
Jimmy Vaccaro. Jimmy, is this a great month or what?
Yeah, it is a great month, and it's good to see your smiling face, Mr. Big Timer. At the hockey game, everybody wanted their picture taken with Mr. Musburger. I had so many people come up to me, and then the coup is like HBO Real Sports, and you just crowded everybody out. A little guy like me was on the editor's floor again. How do you feel about those things?
Jimmy's here.
You have no answer for that.
No, because I haven't seen the piece.
You haven't seen it. Well, yeah.
From my standpoint, you're still in it.
I'm still in it. I got calls from everywhere. Said, Jimmy, I thought I was going to get even Vincennes and Ahmad was in it. Jimmy V.
When they were in here filming. They
Gonzo.
Yeah. And I thought Jim, honestly, and I said to people, I said, wait till you hear Jimmy, because I said he gives an absolute point-by-point breakdown. He shows, it was
Okay.
And so I get calls too. What the hell are you talking about?
You know,
what piece was that?
Brian, it's tomorrow. Andrea Kramer's coming up sometime. She did about 4:30.
She forgot me, too.
Oh, she loved you.
She forgot me. It was okay when they needed something 25 years ago. A little different story.
Hey, enough about that stuff.
Okay.
They're up at the TPC.
Yeah.
They're playing up there today.
Right.
Big crowds on hand. It's wonderful.
The Shriners.
I think I heard Jeff talk on our air with Matt and JVK the other day about what a great scene it is. You know, it is great to walk out early in a golf tournament. Betting is one thing, but to walk out early, pick your favorite, walk with him when the crowds aren't too great, and then on the weekend watch him play. I'm going to get you involved.
You ready for full disclosure?
Full disclosure.
If they were playing the Masters in my backyard, I'd be sitting on the front porch.
You know what I love? Every place I go, Vinny, somebody says, "I love you guys, but the guy, Jimmy Vaccaro, he's my favorite. You never know what he's going to say."
Right.
You know?
That's right.
I don't know.
He doesn't know either.
Great weekend. A great month.
Yes,
Oh,
has been.
Money flying. Money is flying everywhere. I am telling you. Let's just clarify people out there, because we're watching the tale of the Astro Better. There are two different outfits. They're not
Two outfits,
Yeah, there's
not
two
the same.
outfits. Right. And they obviously try to beat everybody to the number, but they're welcome business. I know one thing. They have no fear of the number, because if you adjust it and they bet it again, if they come back later and it's a different number, it means nothing to them. As we spoke in Mr. Musburger over the years, and Benny, I'm sure, has told you 1,000 times either, when you get people like this caliber, as we would call them event players, when they show up for maybe 4 or 5 times a year, the number means nothing. No. When they got on their little airplane or big airplane, wherever they came from, they knew who they were betting when they got here. It's not like they were shopping for the best numbers. They just hit every joint that they could. And I'm sure that every joint might be a little variance in the numbers, but that's what it is. They just want to bet. This outfit isn't through, because we have the game. It's not even till tomorrow night. And a lot of money showed up already, so buckle up, kids.
I just want to make one thing
Here
clear,
we go.
so we don't alert every stick-up man between here and Houston.
Correct.
The big money gets wired into the account.
Yeah.
They don't carry sackfuls of cash into the South Point, correct?
Just a little, Brent's right on the money. Now, what just happened, the guy that made the bet today, he picked up $300,000 from the bets he won previous. So what we do there with our guy, Tommy Blazing, we give him, naturally, the tickets that he bet. We subtract that amount from the amount he has coming, and then Tom goes and gets him a check at the cage. So there's, guys, you're wasting gas money if you're looking to do anything.
I just wanted to make sure I made that point.
Thank you.
Okay. Jimmy, some big names are out playing hoops. Do we attract some business, the cage, with that?
Yes, my friend. Like a lot of times in my life, I completely don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I thought the basketball would be, it's insane. Whatever you put up anymore, people bet on it. And it just goes to show you, as we keep saying, this is one of the reasons that this handle keeps going up statewide and worldwide every year. We have taken a $2,000 limit. I can't tell you. I sat back here while Chris was on the show. The kids just kept constantly okaying $2,000 bets, and I don't know what to tell you, my friend. I really don't. And a sincere note, where the hell it's going, I ain't going to say nothing anymore.
Chris said that he thought that the knowledgeable basketball bettors. I'm looking at you, Amal. I've got eyes in the back of my head. The knowledgeable have an advantage on the bookmakers who have been kind of tied up with baseball, football at this time. Would you agree with that?
I would agree, but a slight, is that the good word, caveat?
Caveat.
Oh, you like that?
I like that word. That's a good one.
It used to be we got kicked in our ass for years in a row. We're getting a little smarter, too, with the numbers. So the gap isn't what it once was, where, we just be one-sided with the smart. So I give the industry a lot of credit because what we do now, like way back when, and I'm sincere about this, when it was only like one person trying to do your numbers for you with everything else going on. It was impossible. Now you got kids who are into it. Like we have a lot of kids that do different things and they're very good at it. In other words, they can help you take the load off of things and obviously get you closer to what you consider a good opening number. So it's still a pain in the butt, but not nearly as much as it was.
Yeah, there's really an opportunity to take advantage sometimes. And what Jimmy's point is, they've sharpened the numbers. But if you follow some of these smaller leagues, some of the smaller conferences, before they have an opportunity to adjust to certain teams, that's when you can jump on it. We see it all the time in the NFL. And it's the same thing when sports, any sport, regardless of what it is, before the season starts, there's always an opportunity.
You're exactly right, my friend. And it's not like the big schools that need adjusted. The small ones are the ones that you run with. So like what Chris does and what a lot of people who run these joints do, and Chris is the boss, he'll tell the kids, if it's one of those small college plays and a guy lays you one, don't go to 1.5, go to 2 or 2.5 to see what the next move. The trick with this racket is finding out what they do after you move a number.
Exactly.
So once you get to the second number, you're in pretty good shape.
It was like the big baseball bettor.
Yes.
He would bet it, and then Chris would move the number on him for another $25,000.
Right.
Bet, move it again, and he kept coming. He obviously didn't care what the number was.
Correct.
He wanted the Dodgers flat out. He thought they were going to win that game.
But what it did for us is we knew where the buyback was coming.
Exactly.
Right after we did it. So that was the most important thing.
And that's why you move
Yes.
a number. I mean,
Correct.
Some people don't understand that.
Well, I do.
I was shocked. Any good bookmaker, he moves a number.
Yeah.
And then you're attracting business back on the other side.
Correct.
Because that's going to the opposite
you
direction.
always want a decision. Like I said, it's senseless to go in there and I hear this quite a bit, we just want to get two-way action. Well, you do that and you can grind out like a living, but we want to win. So you want to have a side going for you.
I think Chris told me that after the big bets came in, that the book was actually writing Verlander at 9-2 odds. You're always going to take that, because you don't. The truth of the matter is, it's very unusual to have an even dollar bet.
Yes.
You'd like to have it, but you don't have it.
You know how much that happens on a weekend, my friend? 2 or 3 times, maybe. And also, one day I'll show you. I'll really print out something, not print out, and I'll tell you to do it on the air, and you'll say, this Jimmy, he really knows something about what's going on.
Yeah,
and I'll show it to you. And
know
you'll
a
go
lot what's going
here's
on.
what he'll say. You ready? We'll do this next week. Here's what I'll say.
Right.
Did you see that, Amar? That's interesting.
Hey, Jimmy, when you were at the Mirage, had the book started raising the vig if they were getting too much money on a team?
No.
Or did that come?
That came a lot later. I want to say a lot later. That came probably in the late 90s.
Okay.
And, the person that started the penny line, we say minus 17 plus 07, minus 13 plus 03, there was a guy named Gene Mayday who ran the Little Caesars, which took huge limits because Gene, that was his own money. It was a little casino. He had one crap table, and you couldn't even buy a hot dog in the joint. But he played very high. He actually had an account with us at the Mirage because he would get a lot of players. He had these Texas guys come in every week during football season, Saturday and Sunday, bet 4, 5, and 6 teamers for $5,000 to $15,000 a whack.
Think about
so every
that.
once in a while, Gene would make a bet at the Mirage on the same side, trying to get rid of it just a little bit. And I used to come in and see Gene, and he'd say, "I want you to root the same thing I got to root for, kid." It was Gene Mayday. It was Gene Mayday who did the penny line. Excuse me. One little thing, Brent, that it amazes me, and we'll show people someday how this actually is behind the counter when things are going on there. Chris is in front of a computer seeing all the plays that are coming through, and then there's Cam, Nick, and Joe who are doing up all the stuff. In other words, they'll change the stuff when it comes across. The big stuff Chris must okay. And everybody is absolutely incredible in the way that they handle these things with these bets coming in. Jammed at the counter, the phones are ringing off the hook, but everybody got in. It's just an incredible thing to watch, and I'm sincere about it. I know business is business, but these guys are off the chart the way that they handle this stuff.
I just wish that representatives of the major sporting league would come in here
And watch.
and pay attention to the regulation too.
Right.
Because nothing means more to the sports betting industry than the integrity of the games. Okay, these guys are in business, and they're an overseer. And when you stand with all the computers, it's mind-boggling to see the numbers that are being bet at different places.
Yes, all
and
over
you
the
have
world.
to adjust because with those apps now,
Yes.
people are looking at several different casinos at the same time and are going to pounce.
Exactly right. And it was a chop suey last hour meeting. It was just ticket after ticket after ticket. A lot of total play, more than I anticipated.
Interesting.
For a Saturday morning. Naturally, same old thing. The biggest decision is still the Mississippi game with UL Lafayette. The parlays come in on both sides, but it's just, Brent, and in some way, obviously we know the world's a little screwed up, right? But this takes you away from it for a while. It really it's a great entertainment ploy also. So that's why I think we're getting more and more and more. It's a great way to spend the day. You ain't gonna blow a lot of money, but you can have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, some people work crossword puzzles, and other people play a 3-team parlay here
Yep.
at the South Point. I mean, what the heck? Back live, vsin.com, Sirius XM 204.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com. Welcome back to the best of My Guys in the Desert with your host, Brent Musburger.
I did not see total 8 innings with the World Series. First of all, I fell asleep at 8 o'clock every night anyway.
Yeah, I know.
From what I did, a wonderful World Series.
Jim. Yeah, okay.
Play was high,
Yeah.
and everything, to some degree, went exactly like you thought it would be. But to some degree, I'm glad it's over. We're in November. And you know what? We'll forget all about the World Series in about another 24 to 36 hours when the Breeders' Cup, which Mary got the ballroom open, the one ballroom for Friday, 2 on Saturday. And not that I'm trying to push you to come to South Point, but in Las Vegas, there's a few things you got to do. You got to do March Madness.
No
You
question.
got to
Yes.
see March Madness. And these girls are waving, yes. You got to see March Madness. You have to be around for Super Bowl. And you have to be around for the Derby or the Breeders' Cup. Because the casinos go way out, trust me. They go way out.
Yeah.
Now, upstairs, like I said, the beer with the drink tickets are fine. You can get yourself the hot dogs, whatever, up. And we got 4 betting windows open, and it's very, very spacious. So you got to put that down, guys, out there. You got to try it just once.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. It's not like sports betting. Some people have the wrong idea that, and what I've learned out here is it's more of a traffic builder than anything else. I mean, the holds and the percentages
Listen.
are not as great as people think
No.
they are. Those slot machines that I see all around town,
Right.
they got a better hold than the sport.
The one, and not because I work for him. Obviously, I work for a lot of people in this town, as did Vinny. Michael understands the racing sports book better. Oh, let's call it like it is, too. His father was
Absolutely.
one of the biggest bookmakers
No question.
ever. So Michael grew up with that. So his thing, very simple with this. You want to make some money. Make no mistake about that. You want to get your name in the paper, and you want to create traffic. And for the most part of all the books in Nevada, you're correct. Good, bad, or indifferent, good World Series, bad World
Right.
Series, good Super Bowl, bad Super Bowl. Brenda comes out. It's 7 to 7.5% a year. That's what we
Exactly.
hold. Even though you get your brains beat down every now and then, it still comes out. So that's the level. So with that, we got to chop up promotion, this and that.
Yeah.
But it all works out if it's done properly. And have you been invited? Seriously, there's supposedly a big powwow about 2 weeks before the Supreme Court goes for their trial thing, whatever it is, in New York. They're bringing certain people over there to talk in the favor, like, why not legalize betting? You haven't said anything. Have you been invited?
I have not been invited.
Okay. You should be.
You should.
'Cause, I'm not blowing you up, kid, but you've been everywhere. You've seen what these stadiums are like. It's not mayhem. It's not craziness that people think, it's like everybody's running down to the field and, hey, look, you screwed me. I lost this, lost that. They need someone like you, but they probably won't call you.
Stay tuned.
Everybody has an interest in at least a sport during the course of the year.
Oh, absolutely.
And when you get into this business, you start realizing that it really is something that crosses over so many lines. I mean, it's very social. Again, sports wagering, and we're going to talk to Andrea Kramer, who interviewed you for the HBO piece. Sports wagering's become more mainstream. It's what people want to know about, and we're happy to provide that, particularly here at VSiN and with our publication. So it's good stuff.
If there's anybody who happens to be listening, and I'm pretty sure there's probably at least one person who happens to know personally, for one reason or another, a member of the Supreme Court, and you like to handicap whether it's football, baseball, basketball, doesn't matter. They're getting ready to have a hearing, okay? The courts ruled that you could not have single-game wagering in the state of New Jersey. And the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, NCAA all argued against the people's choice. This becomes a states' rights issue. Remember now, they had an election. It was on the ballot. And the good folks in New Jersey voted to legalize it, okay? Just drop them a nice little note and say that you don't think the republic is going to fall. They put a lottery on every corner in this country, okay? You can't go anyplace. Well, Nevada and Utah are exceptions to that, of course, but you can't go anyplace without seeing the lottery. And I'm saying here that that's a bad gamble in those neighborhoods, okay? And that if you bet $20 on a football game and take a shot, you got a better chance. You got a better chance to win, trust me, than you do taking part in those lotteries. And the integrity of the games are not going to be shaken. It's not going to be shaken by legalized betting. We've had it forever out here in Nevada, okay? Those guys make too much money for any fixer to get in there and rig an NBA, NHL, or NFL game, and it should be like the UK, it should be like France, should be like Australia. There's places where you go and make it. And if you don't, fine, just go on about your business.
Right.
I mean, there's no.
Right.
We're not trying to sell. We're not trying to sell you picks. Listen, if you follow my picks, you go broke. I mean, have some fun, enjoy it like I do, and Vinny, we talk point spreads because that's what the business is out here. But a lot of people especially in the NFL, if you're in a league where you just pick flat out winners, not as easy as it sounds, by the way.
No.
To just pick winners, and then you keep score on the entire season, and you have a good time.
I tell you, we have one of the cards here at the South Point is pick just the winners every week. As a jackpot prize for it. There's not a lot of perfect cards.
Exactly.
I have to tell you, there's not a lot of 16 and 0s or 14 and 0s, depending on if there's buys or not. So, and to your point, Brent, again, it's the fact that what we do here is has such transparency and oversight, and that's what we do. And again, it's like anything else. We advocate all that transparency, and so I thought, the piece was good, and encourage folks.
Did you get a chance to see it?
I did. I thought, first of all, I'll flat out tell you you were a great ambassador for it. You gave good facts. I think it certainly could have taken up the entire show, which they had other segments.
I guess they had a
obviously,
good piece on Patrick Ewing.
Patrick Ewing. It was a nice.
I heard nice things about
very
that.
good. Very good piece on Patrick Ewing. I was a big Patrick Ewing fan, and but listen, the good thing is folks are becoming more educated and versed, and again, vehicles such as VSiN, frankly, are helping folks with that process.
Well, let's just take tonight's game, which we've been talking about, Miami-Baltimore. So you certainly have your Dolphin loyalists,
Sure.
Okay, and you've got your Raven loyalists. But let's say that you're not loyal to why would you watch this game if you weren't involved in betting on it? What would be the huge attraction here?
Because you took 3.5.
I suppose,
or you laid 3. I mean, depending
and I
on
want to
your...
make perfectly clear. I think fantasy is gambling. Okay.
Yes.
Let me make myself perfectly clear. If you draft a team under a salary cap, you are gambling on those players doing better than the other dude's players, and that's the definition of gambling. So don't be throwing that stuff out, NFL. Don't be giving that poppycock. Don't be sending it my way with that. Okay?
2 questions. So, do you put money up for your fantasy league? Obviously, the answer is yes. Do you win money if you do well?
Yes.
Do you have to pay if you don't do well?
Yes.
Gambling.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
You got it.
3 yeses equal gambling. How's that?
You, Vinny. That's exactly
and that's
right.
okay.
It's the definition of it. Hey, I like some of the props. The prop I always like, and this is tonight on the Dolphins and Ravens, I always look. Here's how I can tell whether we're going to have a high-scoring game or a low-scoring.
Right.
I always go to the longest TD in the game, okay? Offense, defense, or special teams. When it says 45.5, I say, oh, we got a couple pretty good teams here. Hang on here. But when I see a 35.5 like I see tonight,
right.
I say, defenses are going to dominate this game.
You saw 45.5 the other night between Philadelphia and Washington. Tonight, 10 points less. But this has cashed. I believe just about every week we've posted it.
Has it gone over?
Yeah, it's gone over. And of course, our friend Jimmy Traina, who makes
he's fun.
Flatter coaxes him every week. Into this process.
I got to get on Flatter. He says, Jimmy, we've got it shades to the under. What are you talking about? Give him a prop and let him go over. He's not up at the counter for crying out loud. Shades to the under. Hello.
Oh, Rodney. But it's fun and props.
He's got a horse racing thing out. Podcast.
He's got a podcast next Wednesday. Patrick McGuigan and I are going to participate with him and break down the Breeders' Cup.
I think he's got Mike Smith, I think he told me.
Okay.
Great Hall of Fame jockey.
Yeah.
Because
Breeders' Cup is a week from this weekend. It's next Friday and Saturday, yes. The 3rd and 4th, I believe it is.
We got to get Patrick and our guys. We've got to. the ballroom is a Friday afternoon and Saturday. Right?
Yes. It's a 2-day event, Breeders' Cup. There'll be races on 13 races on Friday and Saturday. Biggest, the World Championships of horse racing. So, tremendous business.
I have to tell you, when we were talking to the British bookie,
Mm-hmm.
and he said he thought that we were being hurt by pari-mutuel wagering, I've given a lot of thought to that. And if I could walk up right now and see a fixed price on Arrogate or some other horse,
I'd
be interested.
You can, and you can find that in the future. But let's say if you go to Wynn at Johnny Avella's place, Johnny's got a.
You have a fixed price on the Classic?
Yes, he does have a fixed price on the Classic. So, yeah, Brent, folks have become. This speaks to. Let's come full circle with our discussion here on sports wagering. Folks like to know what they're going to win when they make a wager. And of course, in pari-mutuel, you only have an idea, and of course, and then again, because a significant part, the majority of the money in horse racing comes in right at post time, the tote system is still calculating even once the gate breaks. So you get that first furlong, and they're still calculating going on. You might have a 10-to-1 shot that all of a sudden comes back and pays 5-to-1 because there was an influx of money. So to that point, and in Britain, there are bookies at the track with fixed odds prices. Yeah. And then, of course, they are the ones who primarily bet into the tote, which you're supposed to do as a bookmaker because you're laying off, you're investing to mitigate your position on your fixed odds prices. That's such a good concept.
Sports betting.
Love it.
If you love it, one of the great scenes in the world is to go to a racetrack in England, Ireland, places like that, and see the bookies down by the rail.
Yes.
With their sacks
with their
of
board,
cash,
and they have their boards, right?
And they're putting up the fixed odds on the horses, and they're raising fingers talking to each other, down the line, how much they've got. And it's wildly exciting. And there's no lines at the pari-mutuel windows, believe me, when you go to an English racetrack. Let's take a break. Let's come back. Vinny, let's check back in. I want to talk about the National Hockey League, our Golden Knights, an amazing story here in Las Vegas. We've also got NBA basketball on Thursday night. What a great month October is. Back live, vsin.com, SiriusXM 204.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com. Welcome back to the best of My Guys in the Desert with your host, Brent Musburger.
Who's commissioner next year?
It's going to be close, my friend, because what's going through Goodell's mind is, wait a minute, even if I get re-up, I'm really damaged in this thing. Okay?
Right.
And if I step out now, if I have a settlement with my head up high, I got a Fortune 500 company headed my way.
Okay.
Okay. Because, he's got a great background in the state of New York. His father was a United States Senator.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Republican senator, and ran into it with the conservative wing of the Republican Party, and the conservatives ganged up on him and took him out, in New York. But that's Roger's background. Coming through. Yeah, so he's been around, and because even if they re-up him, the media is going to constantly refer back. I mean, this is open warfare when an owner comes out and basically says, let's get that bum out of here.
They've got a lot of issues, and you and I have talked about this off air. When the next CBA comes up in terms of renegotiation between the players, between the power that Goodell has, and now with ownership potentially wanting him out of there, it could be I think we could be heading for a lockout.
If Goodell made a major problem or major mistake, it was insisting that he become judge and jury. That's normally someone who's concerned about his power more than his performance. I've been around people who want power, and a three-person tribunal would have been so much better through this entire nonsense that he's supposed to be the commissioner of the players as well as the owners.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Right.
Go ahead.
Good, buddy. Okay. What's Goodell like off the air?
Pleasant.
Okay.
Yeah, pleasant. Not that I've spent that much time with him. I certainly knew Roselle and Mr. Tagliabue a lot more than I know Roger. The gossip from people who know him better than I do is that, like his father, he's a politician, and so that when he gets into his limo to go outside of New York, he's always on the phone talking to the owners especially the owners that he knows likes him, so that he's maintaining his. Listen, it's like being president of the United States or anything else. There's a shelf life. Okay, I mean,
right.
Come on, we got to turn this situation over. And I would think that he's had discussions. It didn't look good when the Wall Street Journal uncovered the fact that his wife had a hidden Twitter account and was, constantly tweeting out how great he was, and you can't blame him for anything. I think that was a little. I just kind of shook my head when I read that story.
You've been around the game a long time. Anybody you think that would emerge potentially, or a name or a candidate that could be someone to keep an eye on? I know it could be a long ways off.
Yeah, it's at this point in time, they'll probably have to compromise. There will be the Jones wing is going to put up a candidate, and Mr. Blank down in Atlanta, let's say, because he's the head of he's going to have a candidate. There'll be somebody else. And then what happens, and this is probably how Pete Rozelle became the commissioner, as a matter of fact, now that I think about it, you get a logjam, and you don't get 100% of the owners backing one. And so they bring up the compromise candidate, and then he becomes the next commissioner of the NFL. Now, this is going to knock you off your stool, both of you. And they're not going to ask me. But for 2 years, okay, I would give him a 2-year buyout contract to come in. I would go see if Barack Obama would be interested.
Whoa.
Okay? I think that a couple things have to go on here. First of all, Barack, great sports fan, knows what's going on. But I think he can address this gulf that exists right now, largely between the minority players and the white ownership. Let's tell it like it is. And I think someone with that kind of dignity and ability, even though it isn't likely that a majority of those 32 owners voted for him. Okay, let me tell you, I don't know. Okay, however, they have to respect where he's been and what he's accomplished, and I find that he would be terrific. I would head in that particular direction. Okay, because I've seen what this anthem thing is all about. And it's pretty much based upon race lines. When you take a look at the kids that have been sitting, kneeling, or whatever, and you need to bridge that gulf. You need, and that's what this commissioner should have done immediately with Kaepernick. Two things would have happened. We wouldn't have had the issue. And secondly, Kaepernick could still be playing someplace, okay? This destroyed Kaepernick's career. He's persona non grata. Nobody wants to touch it. He's a distraction. But if you put out that fire immediately, you would have protected him. So, hey, listen, I'm on a rant. I shouldn't go there.
No, I mean, that's a great suggestion. To me, the one thing is for the league as a whole, they have to get back some of the fan base because there have been so many people have just stopped watching on the weekends. And to me, that's where they really have to concentrate. And I think the players and owners have to work together on that.
Do I get paid overtime?
You do.
All right. 45 minutes here.
It's awesome. It's awesome, okay? MacLive, vsin.com, SiriusXM 204.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com. Welcome back to the best of My Guys in the Desert with your host, Brent Musburger.
And we welcome in now a good friend and the HBO Real Sports correspondent. She put VSiN on the map. Andrea Kramer. And how are you, Andrea? I've heard so many nice things about the story that you presented the other night, so thanks a lot.
It's the guys in the desert, Brent, Vinny. I feel honored to be on with you guys. Who would have ever thought this? Well, thank you, Brent. We've gotten tremendous feedback, and when you've got an iconic broadcaster as one of the primary voices and characters in your story, with the credibility that you have, it's sort of hard to go wrong.
Yeah, and you also have to tell Brian Gumbo, because I've heard from a lot of people that he came out and said Brent's right about professional athletes, and he also is supposed to have done a very good story that night about Patrick Ewing. Yes. I've got it taped, and I haven't seen it yet, but say hello to Brian, one of my former neighbors down in Florida, a better golfer than I am. But I keep trying, Andrea. I keep trying.
Yes. Well, the two of you probably have some decent time on your hands to hone your skills. Even though I don't know, you're still to me, in the time that I was there, you still look like the busiest man in America. So that 2-day retirement, I hope you got a lot out of that.
How did you enjoy the T-Mobile Arena for the hockey game? Because I know you had some clips from the Golden Knights in that game. What did you think?
Well, you want to really know what I think, which was absolutely hilarious. So I'm walking around and it was the first preseason game that we were there for, and so I was just curious, and I was asking various people, why are you here? It's a preseason game, and as I sort of expected, they said, well, it's still history, and the first time you're ever having professional sports and things of that nature. And then I look around, and they're all cold. And I look at the concession stands. No, this is not a joke. All the sweatshirts and fleeces are selling off the racks because the people in Las Vegas had no idea how cold it was in an ice arena. And I was speaking to somebody in Las Vegas, another broadcaster, and they said, even the broadcasters had no idea. And I'm sort of sitting there going, it's ice, folks. There's not going to be a lot of sweating going on here amongst you. But that was something that really resonated for me. I couldn't believe the whole game presentation, though. I mean, you could even see how, look, the arena is spectacular in itself, but really the way that they're going about it is the way of the future. Well, you've really got to do a lot to captivate and keep your audience and make them want to come there. Plus, the whole plaza scene was great. It was so great. Even though, as you and I discussed, Brent, it was very interesting. You look around, you're on that plaza, and you see the two casinos right there, and you can make your bet on that game and walk across the street and see the game. And as your listeners know, or people around the country who may not know, that's so unprecedented in the annals of American sports to be able to do that, and it clearly looks to be the wave of the future in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and what are you hearing overall, Andrea, with your reporting on the story? What kind of a feel did you get? I know you were with Chris Christie and other
right.
people, and you talk to the leagues and things like that. Mm-hmm. What sort of a sense do you get about the future of legalizing sports gambling in the United States?
Well, one of the interesting things that I heard pretty uniformly was, I don't necessarily care for Chris Christie's politics, but boy, is he right on in this space. He's right on with what he said and with what he's trying to do. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then obviously we were involved in the news cycle, as I'm sure you saw, because the Trump administration came out and in a rarity sided with the NFL on something, and they are against the Chris Christie lawsuit. Just to refresh very quickly for your audience, this dates back to 2011 when the citizens of New Jersey voted overwhelmingly 2-1 in a referendum to approve legalized sports betting in New Jersey. Subsequently, the leagues, the 4 major leagues and the NCAA sued Chris Christie in the state of New Jersey to prevent that. There have been 6 times that this case has been in front of various courts. And Christie has lost every single time. And then suddenly, I think much to people's surprise, the Supreme Court agreed to hear this, oral arguments will be at the end of November, beginning of December. And if indeed the Supreme Court rules in favor of New Jersey to legalize sports betting, which, Brent, you told me you think they're going to do, really, without any hyperbole, I think that the sports culture in this country is going to change virtually overnight. So I think it's interesting that the Trump administration came out opposing that. You've had a number of very conservative groups, even within the past 24 hours, coming out and saying, and this is what I want to hear from you, you think you're back in like Salem with the witch trials, gambling is a sin and it's going to be, it's going to wreak havoc upon your families and it's going to, make people go bankrupt and things of that nature. And look, I mean, you can get addicted to anything. We know that. But how do you guys answer when there's conservative critics that point to things like that?
Well, they can get in trouble gambling without having legalized sports gambling. That's not they're going to stop that particular addiction. And there's gambling in every state, save for Utah, right now that I can think of. So I would say, hey, that ship has sailed. And how did prohibition work out when it came to alcohol? And we still have a lot of people who get trouble with addiction through the years. And listen, I'm pretty libertarian when it comes to drugs myself. I think we have to fight this in a different direction than what they're going. But that's a different story for a different time. I am interested in the Trump administration. Now, I believe it was a Solicitor General. Am I right about that? Whose comments on this? Has Trump himself tweeted in the middle of the night anything about legalized sports gambling, or is he too busy?
We were
with
kind
other
of
things?
wondering about that. We were wondering, our producer Jordan Cronick, who you met and worked with out there. We were talking about that. I cannot say that I know it for sure, but I have not heard that he has. But as we've learned, we don't put anything past what does come out of the White House early in the morning or late in the evening, as we say. So we don't know, but. Obviously it's interesting because Governor Christie and President Trump have had quite a relationship, a little bit rocky at times, but so it'll be interesting to see if Trump does come out about this. He usually has opinions on most things. But to this point, I do not know of any tweets that have come out about it directly.
Andrea, to your point, and again, thanks for taking the time to come visit us. I enjoyed the piece that you put together. In terms of what folks, if we were speaking to conservatives, and we've answered a lot of questions over the years about this. One of the things is that folks here, as opposed to say a jurisdiction or a place where there's not a lot, people can bet on credit. There's no credit wagering here on sports wagering. You have to have the money up. Folks can get in a lot of trouble if you're betting on credit and just keep running it. That's where a lot of problems lie there. But I was just curious in terms of in your research, because 20 states have filed what's referred to as an amicus brief, right? And to piggyback off of what the Supreme Court is going to decide, what was something that surprised you the most in your research that maybe you were taken aback by, or you really thought, wow, that's something that people really haven't talked about a lot openly?
I think that one thing that really resonated for me was courtesy of Mr. Musburger and the tour that he gave me behind the scenes. And Brent, if I'm using the wrong nomenclature, please correct me. Behind the scenes of the sports book, showing me where all the computers are and how, I think Jimmy Vaccaro was showing me how everything is so specifically monitored. And of course, this speaks to an issue that we had in the story, which both Brent and the former mayor, Oscar Goodman, referred to, which is just how intensely regulated and monitored sports betting is in the state of Nevada in particular. But for me to actually see that really resonated strongly for me, because you just didn't get the sense that you got the sense that they knew everything that was going on. And certainly the mayors had said to me, both Oscar and Carolyn said, look, if it gets legalized elsewhere in the country, they should come to us because we are the template. We know how to do it. We know how to monitor it. And And truthfully, we don't want anybody else in the country screwing it up for us because we know how to do it right. And if they don't do it right, it hurts all of us. So that's one thing that I learned and resonated quite a bit for me. And, of course, the other thing is just the sheer numbers that we're talking about in terms of $5 billion best estimates legally bet in the state of Nevada versus best estimates $150 billion illegally wagered in other parts of the country. And of course, you're talking offshore and online wagering and things of that nature. And and look, in some spaces, those are conservative estimates. So, just from a common sense standpoint, you got to sit there and say, why wouldn't you want this illegal money legal? And it can be taxed, and it can actually maybe be used to do some good in the states and things of that nature. So I just feel the one reason I love this piece is I feel like I learned so much about areas that I just didn't know about, and I'm still learning quite a bit about it because I think this is a story that we hope to be following pretty closely in the years to come, certainly when the Supreme Court rules next spring or summer.
Yeah, exactly, Andrea. And I want you to know you're welcome anytime out here in Las Vegas at the South Point. You can come out socially and have a very good time, believe me. And we appreciated the coverage from HBO. Again, she was a correspondent, ladies and gentlemen. If you're listening to us, haven't seen it. And I know that HBO reruns these shows, Real Sports, from time to time. And if you've got DirecTV, if you've got DirecTV in particular, and your cable system, and you've got HBO, or you can order it up, go in there because you'll be able to see it. And it's not just a story about us and gambling in Vegas. This group, including Andrea Kramer and Bryant Gumbel and the rest of them, they do terrific job covering the inside of sports. You always learn something. And Andrea, I really appreciate talking to you today. And we will speak with you down the road. And hopefully we'll get a yay from the Supreme Court, and away we'll go.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for having me on. Vinny, it was great to meet you. And Brent,
Same
always
here.
a pleasure to be around you. And thank you so much for having me on. It was great, guys.
And Andrea, Jimmy Vaccaro sends his love right there. So we will speak with you soon. Okay.
You got to give him my best. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot. Bye. We're going to take a break, come back. We're going to close it out. We got NFL tonight. We've got college football. We're looking to Game 3 tomorrow of the World Series. Back live, vsin.com, Sirius XM 204.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com. Welcome back to the best of My Guys in the Desert with your host, Brent Musburger.
Mr. Jimmy Vicker. Jimmy, thanks for dropping by, my friend. What's going on?
Thank you, my friend, and my other friend here. 2 days off. You look refreshed, kid.
I am.
You know, there was a big weekend last weekend, but let me help you out a little bit. First
Okay.
of all, Friday night, Trafford plays Upper St. Clair, and McKeesport plays Gateway. The two
Big
winners of that
Pennsylvania.
team
Ooh.
play Heinz Field for the championship.
They go to the championship at Heinz Field?
Heinz Field.
Do they play that on
Pennsylvania
Thanksgiving Day or?
football. I think they do. Football's still pretty big in Pennsylvania.
Is it? Okay,
Oh, my
great.
goodness.
Even with some of the mines and
Yeah.
things closing down.
Yes,
That's great.
Not bad, not bad. And the other thing, we all talked about how good of a weekend it was last week with these unbelievable matchups. We ain't far behind this week, pal. From a bookmaker standpoint, as I've been saying for all these years, is chaos is great for us. I would like to see Auburn beat Georgia. I mean, I would like to see. I know Notre Dame is bigger for everybody else if they beat Miami, but let Miami throw a wrench in that thing too by obviously by winning.
Oh,
Saturday.
you want total chaos.
Yeah, I want total chaos because total chaos seems to just makes people energized and want to bet. And one more thing, and maybe a little switching here, but my friend, what do you see? What it's like? I was looking ahead already in Doc's book. Championship weekend of the wild card is off the chart. I think it's January 6th. Then the next weekend, you still have the 2 games Saturday and 2 games Sunday, which is off the chart. So, I mean, we keep talking about the handle. We keep talking about, what if we can break a record. The more I see our handle and the more that I talk to the guys around the city, forget the 4 billion mark. We're going to surpass that this year as far as sports betting here in Nevada.
Really?
It's insane. It really is.
Yeah, well, we had the big fight.
Yes.
That set a record.
Sure did.
Then we had a big record-setting World Series.
Oh, my goodness.
Think about that was going down. And now college football attracting. And I would think them all when the entire NFL, all 32 teams start playing again, bye week's over, and the races start coming down the stretch, that will energize the NFL bettors.
I would think so, just simply because as you mentioned, you have 2 to 3 additional games that are not on the schedule. And then also you realize the teams have more to play for, so there's a greater interest, and I think from a fan standpoint as well.
And excuse me. And I believe also the championship game of college is January the 8th, which means
It
there's
is.
still games on Saturday and Sunday. What a weekend that'll be.
Oh, it'll be amazing.
Oh, my goodness.
You'll have NFL playoff games,
Yes.
and then you'll
Right to
have
the
the championship game.
Yeah.
They're in Atlanta in the new stadium for that game this year.
And that'll be great. That's a Monday night game. I think it'll be, as you guys both just alluded to, I think it'll be huge simply because you're coming off the playoffs. College basketball will be in full swing. NBA will be in full swing. And then it'll be an isolation game on that Monday night. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah, it's and oh, by the way, there's a little argument about to break out in front of the Supreme Court involving the state of New Jersey. That's coming up next month in December, and then we will get the verdict after the first of the year.
I want to get your guys' take. I mean, what's your gut tell you in terms of how they're going to rule? I mean, obviously it's up to those 9 justices, but if you had to just say, based on your experience, Jimmy, having been around this business for so long,
6-3.
in favor.
Yes. I just think it's time that even though they may not know anything about sports gambling, I'm sure that there are people around them are saying, listen, there's really nothing really wrong with this. And it can create some jobs and create more money. I mean, you talk about places that need money. New Jersey's about ready to shut down. They would really
Exactly.
need that.
Exactly. And the racetracks,
Yeah.
I know William Hill.
Yeah.
Nick Bogdanovich, of course, here is their bookmaker, but I know William Hill's ready to go at Monmouth, I think it is.
Yes, and one thing, not that I'm letting any cat out of the bag, but and there's been people talking to every owner out here. In other words, people coming from across the sea, looking over here, maybe they can make a deal out with one of the casinos so they could go in there and say simply, I'm partnering up with this guy, I'm partnering up with this guy. So we've been questioned about that before, and I think we'll be questioned about it, especially if it comes like 6-3 in a month, that you'll see so much movement, because the bottom line, just like everything else, those people will be making a bet, but you got to get involved now. You can't wait till they say you can start doing it. So it's going to be very interesting, Brent.
Yeah,
Very
I
interesting.
think it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. The leagues have lined up to argue against it, which they did originally, but I got to tell you, the biggest thing that's changed for me is that the National Football League is getting ready to build a stadium, okay, here right across interstate from the Strip, okay? They're going to build a stadium, dome stadium, 65,000, the Raiders. You can walk from that stadium to at least a half dozen casinos that have a sports book, and you still want to argue against it? I don't quite get that. I mean, you're going to come in and embrace Las Vegas, but no, we can't gamble. What are you thinking of? I mean, I just don't get the logic that's involved.
I'm with you, Brent. I don't understand the argument against it. You look in Europe. Every country has gambling. They bet on soccer, obviously bet on other professional sports. And the other thing is, I hear the argument all the time the NFL wants a piece of the pie. Well, the reality is without gambling, their pie isn't even nearly as big as it would be. I've always said, listen, the opening weekend of the season, ask Jimmy and every other bookmaker in town and everybody offshore, don't put up a point spread. See what the ratings are like.
It's going to be interesting only because at my tender age of 72, I really want to see this happen for a lot of different reasons. To some degree, and not that people, chastise me, but it's always been, you guys, there's something going on. You know everything. We don't know anything more than the next guy knows.
Absolutely.
But we surely keep track better than the next guy. That I can tell you 1,000%. But here we go again, Brent. I'll tell you something interesting. Brian Windhurst gave me a call a couple weeks ago, and he's going to cover that for ESPN,
right?
The hearing or whatever. And I said, Brian, all these years I've been inviting people like you to come out and watch for a weekend.
Sure.
And he said, you never asked me. He said, I would love to do it. So if it gets
gonna come,
passed on
great.
September thing, at least we're going to have someone come behind the counter and see exactly how it works and show it's not this big bad bear that you think it is.
Yeah, it isn't. Exactly, and it's still so well regulated, and that's my biggest issue with offshore, is the fact that it's not regulated. I've got nothing against those people. I do business with some of them. Okay, I had one book fold. Okay, in Antigua, I can't remember the name of it, way back in the day. And there's some very respectable bookmakers that work offshore in Costa Rica and some of the other places where the books are. I'm not, but they're not regulated. Okay, they're not regulated like they are here in Nevada. And that's what I would say to the NCAA is everybody knows I have a little more sympathy toward their issues vis-a-vis fixed games than with these pros who make millions of dollars a year. However, I have to say to the NCAA, it's not going away. It's not. You may think that you win this case against New Jersey. Trust me. There's billions of dollars that's flowing offshore, and it's not going to stop. You cannot put the genie back into the bottle. Right. You cannot stop digital betting, okay? It's going to continue, and those shops are out there, okay? And I could list 10 of them off the top of my head, okay? All right.
Now, I want to revisit a point you made probably a couple of months ago. You said, look, in the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, it's just impossible to be able to fix a game due to the salaries of the players. And I get the argument the NCAA is making against college football and college basketball. But to me, the professional leagues have no leg to stand on anymore. Look, let's be realistic. Nobody really cares that much about a game between Oklahoma City and Denver tonight in those particular matchups unless they have money on it. I mean, there's 82 of these games.
Yeah, you could be a hardcore fan of either Seattle or Arizona. I got it. God bless you. I mean, absolutely. I follow teams myself.
Yes,
but the rest of us, we want a little action on the game.
And a little dent in the NCAA's arguments also is simply, I understand it, but we do 5 tournaments a year now here with the basketball.
Right here in this city.
Right here in this state. But their answers always be, well, we can't control, the conferences. We can only say the big dance we control.
Right.
But doesn't that make any? It's silly, isn't it?
It is. It's totally ridiculous.
And the MGM, that when they have it there, you can't get a seat.
No.
And there's never been one thing that's been mentioned like, hey, did you see what happened here? Not one thing.
Yeah. And, and I would tell you, having gone to several Golden Knight games over at T-Mobile, it's a wonder. And I've been to the Pac-12 basketball tournament in the same building. These are great facilities. If I was the NCAA, I'd say, listen, save my money. Let them do what if they want to gamble in New Jersey on sports, go ahead. But I'll tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to put a first and second round in Las Vegas, okay? I'm going to move that West Coast that in there one of these years. I'm going to go ahead and play. Let me tell you this. It'll be one of the toughest tickets in the early rounds of your tournament that they've ever had. If they do it. My mind boggles over the lack of intelligence and things like this. I mean, why be so stupid about this?
Well, I think it's a better location than Buffalo, New York in the first and second round.
Yeah,
You hit on the point I was trying to make. Listen, it's an unbelievable tournament. We all know. But you get some of those first round games. You look in the stands. There's 15 people.
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Any team plays here, it's a sellout.
and let me tell you, let me go to another point.
Okay.
So we're on to this, okay? And the NCAA knows this. They know it as well as I do. One of the biggest sales jobs for your March Madness is that bracket, okay? All right? The bracket racket. Yeah, you got it. How many people fill out that bracket? And ESPN, that's one of their biggest promotions of the year. Not gambling? Really? I didn't know that. If I picked this team to win this thing, I'm taking a chance, okay? And some guys play that bracket for a lot of money, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
Rick Neuheisel.
Let me tell you one thing. Obama was making picks. He's the president of the United States.
He's put them down, of course.
Jimmy does. He goes to the can.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. What are we talking about
It's
here?
insane, buddy.
There is a Long Island. There's a bar. I guess we're great friends on Long Island. They talk about a bunch of rogues and characters who love betting on action. And here's how it works. You get the 64 out, okay, and you go in to get yourself a drink of beer, and you pull a team out of a hat. That's not how they run it. You get that team plus the points, okay? So, Duke's going to win that first round, but they're going to be favored by 28, 29 points. Well, let's say they don't cover. You inherit Duke for the next round. The best bracket contest I have ever been around, okay? It's really good. And if the line is a flat, let's say 8 on a game, they'll round it. They'll put the hook on it so that you can't have any pushes. But you inherit that team if you get the cover. And I mean it is so much fun. It's unbelievable.
First time I heard that, that's a great idea.
It is.
Can you imagine the lines we'd get here if we did that?
We did that. Think
Maybe
about that.
From here to Pahrump.
We need a VSIN bracket
Yeah,
contest. Let's do
absolutely.
it. Let's get another. Hey, stay right here. Stay right here.
Okay.
We're just getting started. We're just warming up. Back live, vsin.com, Sirius XM 204.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com. Welcome back to the best of My Guys in the Desert with your host, Brent Musburger.
We welcome in Tim Dahlberg, Las Vegas Associated Press writer. And Tim and I were just reminiscing, Amal and Vinny, about one of our favorite characters, Jerry Tarkanian. Loved Tim. I know you love covering him here, and I love being around.
He was the best.
He was the best.
I tell you, and you know what? A very underappreciated as a strategist and a college coach. You know, he had guys around him that were very good, but Jerry knew how to coach once they rolled the ball out.
You know, Tim, you know who else says that all the time to me is Bob Knight. He had great respect
He did.
for Tarkanian's coaching ability. And whenever I would come in to do a game, I was impressed with how hard they worked on defense.
Oh, yeah, they had the amoeba defense, and that was how their game was predicated on taking the ball away. And even before the three-pointer came in, Tark was coaching at UNLV. They'd score over 100 points a game.
Oh, absolutely. And we had Gucci Rowe, and everybody was excited. Thomas and Mack was sold out. Those were the days. Can Vegas basketball ever come back to that, Tim?
No, it was the only game in town at the time. The city rallied around Tarkanian and his teams. I think the new coach can win, but he's not going to win at the level that Jerry won at. And, this town loves a winner. They'll come out, but it's not going to be the same. Gucci Row, like you're talking about, those were special times. The Rebels were introduced, and the fireworks went off, and it was a Vegas show. And I don't think you're going to be able to recreate that.
Now, of course, we have the National Hockey League. Vegas is big time, big league. And I know you've been over to see the Golden Knights, as I have several times. What's your feeling about them?
Well, I talked to the owner right before the season started, Bill Foley, and he just had all these ideas and was so excited about what he was going to do there. But what he's done is just build an incredible organization to start out as an expansion team and to win right away as they have. I know they've lost a few in a row now, but everything in that organization is done right, from the marketing to the experience at the arena. To looking forward to what you're going to do down the road with them. Now, will that be successful in Las Vegas over the long term? I think it will be, but there's going to be a time of reckoning in 2 or 3 years if they're not playing for a Stanley Cup. Some of these fans are going to be fair weather fans.
Tim, and of course, folks, it's great to have you in the VSiN studio. I know we chatted a while back, Tim, and Jimmy and I. You have a standing invitation. We go back a long way to the great fights over the years, both at Caesar's Palace, of course, when Jimmy was at the Mirage. And you covered all those fights, and that's where we got to know each other. Unfortunately, we just don't have those mega events. I mean, we had the big event. We had, obviously, Mayweather and McGregor, but not the mega fights that we once had. What are your thoughts on how that's got to get?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Mayweather, McGregor, and of course, what you guys do here with odds. That was the craziest bet fight that I've ever seen, because these fans and true believers in Conor McGregor, they're just shoving $100 bills across the counter. And of course, people that actually know something about the sport were taking Floyd back. But you're still going to have big events, big fights here, but there's never going to be anything like there was at Caesar's Palace in the 80s. The Pavilion was one of the great places to have fights. It held 4,000 people, was filled with cigar smoke and the smell of Caesar's cologne and hot dogs. It was a tremendous place to have fights, and some of the great fighters fought there. And outdoors under the stars at Caesar's Palace, nothing like it.
Why do you guys think boxing has dropped off so precipitously? If you go back to the 80s and UNLV in the early 90s and then the mid-90s, this was a great and underappreciated sports town. I mean, you had so many great fights, so many great boxers at the time. I feel like because the heavyweight division's gone away, that's a large part of it. But still, I don't understand why in the middleweight and other things it's not as popular.
Well, two things. When the heavyweights were relevant, the middleweights and the welterweights maybe weren't. Then there was a time it was reversed. The welterweights and the middleweights reigned supreme if the heavyweights weren't. I think the UFC has impacted boxing now. I think there's a lot more, and they're very talented. The UFC fighters, both the men and the women, are very talented. And I think, Tim, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, I think a lot of young fighters are now migrating to the UFC.
Well, I think you see some of that, but I think a lot of fighters that you might have seen 30 or 40 years ago are going to the NFL, or they're playing college football, or they're playing basketball. They're looking for something because the salaries are so high that they can make money at without getting hit in the head. But, you know, boxing is its own worst enemy. It always has been. Every promoter treats a fight like it's a one-off event. There's no continuity, and that's where UFC has been so successful. Is they're a company town. You know, it's all one store, and it's all one promoter. So they've done very well because they know how to market and they know how to manage their fighters.
They make the best matchups. They make the matchups
They make very good matchups.
that not only the people want to see, but that deserve to be seen.
So let's switch to the UNLV football team. Okay, an entirely different kind of an issue, and they've certainly ridden the roller coaster this year. And with the Raiders coming in, Tim, here in the next 2 to 3 years, what's your feeling about the Vegas program? Will it improve as it embraces the NFL in town, or does it face even a tougher mountain climb?
You know, I can never get my arms wrapped around that program, because every time you think that they're going somewhere, they do something like they did against Howard.
Right.
You know, they just completely lose it. Or, you know, in the game against Air Force, when they have a 28-0 lead and end up losing that game. And you know, it should be easy to recruit people to Las Vegas. It shouldn't be that difficult to build a football team here. If you can build one in Fresno, or you can build one in you know, the middle of Nebraska, why can't you bring players to Las Vegas? You got a great talent pool right next door in California.
The one thing I would disagree with Tim on is, to me, I think the hardest part of recruiting is getting the parents to accept an 18-year-old kid coming to Las Vegas. I think that's the biggest challenge. The city is great, and if you want some potential careers, maybe in hospitality or anything, this is the greatest place in the world to be. But I think that's the stigma to overcome.
Worked out good for me. But you know, one thing I think, Tim, and I'd love to hear your thought on this. I think the fact that once the Raider Stadium is built, and I believe the UNLV football team is going to be playing their home games there, that would probably help in recruiting too, because what happens is this: when recruits do arrive here and they see the lights and they see the setting and the Strip is there, the campus is very close to the Strip, but then you've got to drive, you know, 20 miles east of the Strip to go out to a really an older facility in Sam Boyd Stadium. It's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it's not a very good stadium. It's, you know, built years and years ago and at a very small cost. Once they get the new stadium, you know, who knows how well they do. I don't see them drawing 50,000 people for a UNLV game, no matter how good they are.
Right.
But they might draw 30,000 on a regular basis. You know, once that stadium is built, that stadium's a game changer in a lot of ways for Las Vegas. And you know, I think UNLV can ride that a little bit. You know, how far? I don't know. Unless you're in a Big Five conference, you're limited
Sure.
in what you're going to do as a football team anyway.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what Tim just said.
Yeah.
Could the UNLV ever join the Pac-12? Because that would change the entire dynamic for the program.
I think there was some talk a while back. You know, it was kind of on again, off again, as Tim will recall.
There's been some talk about it, but it hasn't heated up to any level.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be tricky. You know, the Pac-12, although they'd love coming here for the basketball tournament.
Sure, good
the
point.
T-Mobile. I talked to the commissioner having a run into him, and he said, "We're not going to leave. I mean, this is a much better place for us to come for our basketball tournament. Our fans enjoy coming over for a few days, and you know, I just don't know how big is UNLV? How many students do we have?
There's
Anybody know?
30,000 students, but you know, a lot of them are local students.
So we got a commuter.
Right, it's
school.
more of a commuter school. But yeah, you're talking about the conference championships that have come here. I think there was 5 of them here this year,
Yes.
including you know, the Pac-12 and the Mountain West. But really, those conference tournaments are what is kind of the game changer in taking the stigma off of Las Vegas and the betting angle, because you've got these conferences that say, hey, too bad NCAA, we're going to come here. Our people are going to have a good time. Yeah, they're going to be able to walk over and bet the games if they want to. But we don't anticipate any trouble with that.
Yeah, and that's how really the National Hockey League has handled it too. I mean, you want to bet the Golden Knights will walk over, if you want to bet the road team, whatever, and it's just not a big deal, and that's how it should be.
No, it's not, and you know, it's changed so much, and Vinny will be able to talk to that more than me, but the stigma that was on gambling for so long, and sports betting in particular, has pretty much been wiped away. And you look at the polls, the majority of Americans, they want the ability to be able to bet sports.
Absolutely.
I think the education that we've helped provide, and VSiN has, especially since we came on air, has helped. But for years, the transparency is really what's helped make it more mainstream.
Well, I think that's why VSiN's so great, because we talk about the lines every day in the games. Let's be realistic here for a minute, okay? Let's call a spade a spade. Who the hell cares about a hockey game in the middle of November between two teams going nowhere unless you got money on the game?
Yeah. No.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
VSiN.com, Sirius XM 204.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com. Welcome back to the best of My Guys in the Desert with your host, Brent Musburger.
Well, speaking of hockey, how about the Golden Knights?
Oh, and Brent, we were there the other night. What a great start for this team. I know we're going to learn that 7-1. I know we're going to learn a lot more about them as they hit the road next week.
Right.
I believe they've got, I think it's a 6-game road trip. And, there's a back-to-back involved at Madison Square Garden and the Barclays Center in New York, which, again, credit them. They're playing great. A lot of energy and ability. The kids work hard, as we saw the other night.
A lot of Blackhawk fans. Listen, in this streak, we thought, they start off against Dallas and Phoenix. Wait till the good teams go. Hello.
They beat Boston.
St. Louis and Chicago.
Right, in Chicago.
In here, they're in the Stanley Cup last year in the early rounds. Mm-hmm. And they beat both of them.
Yep, they did. Their only loss was to Detroit. But you know what? Again, a great setting. You know, the best. How about the other night where we saw a lot of Blackhawks, which we knew there would be, especially from certain cities where there'd be a lot of folks there. But there was a difference between the folks visiting from Chicago and the folks transplanted here from Chicago, I thought. Right? We saw some families where the husband had maybe a Blackhawk jersey on and the wife had a Knights jersey or vice versa. We saw fans. The one lady we stopped and talked to, she had a Blackhawks jersey on and she had a Knights cap. I mean, it was great. It was a great setting and a lot of fun. Another great crowd. And,
It's a rallying cry for the city.
yes.
Okay? And coming through the painful tragedy of down on the Strip. But also people in Las Vegas, hey, this is a major league city. This is good. They're just happy to have the National Hockey League playing.
Brings a sense of community.
Jimmy, you're going to have to go with us to a game this year. It's just such a great building.
Oh, you know, all kidding aside, I'm not a hockey fan. We all know that. But what this team is doing, 4 months ago, they didn't even have a team.
Exactly.
How smart can they be? I mean, that's
what
amazing what they're doing.
What a nice rallying point for our community.
Yeah, certainly, having gone through the tragedy.
Especially after October 1. But and they've responded. I mean, they're terrific. And by the way, you get out there, out in Summerlin, to see the training facility, and then next to it, within the same complex, the youngsters can skate
on that other sheet of ice.
On the other rink.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
But before you leave today, we got your costume in the back.
Got my Halloween.
Yeah, you're going to be a bookmaker. We're going to dress up like a bookmaker.
Got a little visor, a little pencil.
Little visor.
Hey, get out of here, kid. Get out of here, kid. I don't want to talk to you.
What do you bother me with
That's
that?
right, kid. You'll be perfect.
That sounds familiar.
I've heard that a lot of this kid.
I heard it from you.
Here's this kid. How about the best one ever? I remember trying to bet when I had no money, and the guy looked at me, Joe Nagari looked at me and said, "Hey, kid, this ain't blue stamp."
Wow.
I'll never forget that.
That's unbelievable.
50-some years ago. Hey, kid, these ain't blue stamp.
This is great. Oh, yeah, everybody goes through it.
Oh, that's great.
You know, everybody comes out thinking they're going to beat up
start
on
somewhere.
It is fascinating to watch how the business has grown and the people around it and everything. It's just part of the culture. Remember those little shops we used to go at Churchill Downs, Rose Bowl, those places, and they were rubbing off the horse racing result. They brought chalk up
We
there.
did that. At
I
the
know.
Royal, at the Royal
Think about that.
Yeah.
Barbara Coast at the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah.
We did that. Of
course,
the best scripture guy anywhere was Mel Exper. He owned the Las Vegas Club. Was partners with Jackie Gone back in the 50s, and he used to do it. It was I used to walk in and say, "Mel, you're like an artist. Forget Van Gogh. What you do on that board is 10 times better than any. Forget it. It should be in the Louvre. That's what it should be.
Yeah, we should have that. It's part of American culture.
Absolutely.
By the way, Mel Expert, the Vegas Club, now owned by Derek Stevens, that's his next project.
Is that the new?
He's knocking it down, and his next project is to redevelop that. So the portion of downtown that he's redeveloping includes the Vegas Club Jimmy's speaking about. Yeah.
You know, this Derek Stevens is a great kid.
Wonderful.
I mean, he is absolutely. I listen to him when he's on. He knows what he's talking about. He talks, and he doesn't show the money that obviously he could at times. And his partner was this Notre Dame kid. I mean, he was been right on the money.
He was
Palm.
Mike
Yep.
Palm.
He'd been right on the. He said Notre Dame was going to knock him out, and they knocked him out.
Yeah, and Mike historically knows a lot about what's gone on in sports.
Yep.
When he starts rattling on, and we forget that Derek owned part of the minor league baseball team here.
He owned the
for a while.
51s
Yeah.
for a while. That was, I believe, his
I didn't know that
original
either.
foray into Las Vegas prior to getting into the gaming side of it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's got an inside
Yeah.
knowledge of baseball when you talk to him. He's been around these people, and he's great. Now, of course, we got the Golden Nugget, Tony Miller, another one of our buddies down there, and
You know, Brent, we talk about it quite often, and as you stated just a few minutes ago, like the growth of the industry. The growth is on everything we put on the board. Not just like even the WNBA, like when you get to the finals of those things, you draw attention. The hockey will at least stay where it was. It'll grow a little bit as the Knights get more and more acclimated to people in the community. But like every sport, everything we do, it's almost like we keep feeding this big, and it just keeps eating it up and eating it up.
Yeah.
And it challenges us to do more also. But every sport does better than the previous year. To me, that's unbelievable.
The growth is just incredible. Well, listen, I've lived in states, and so has Mr. Flatter, and actually so have you guys back in the day, where the weekly betting is the lottery. Okay, let's be perfectly honest. There's a lottery stand. Lottery's real legal in the state of Nevada. I have so much more fun just betting a few bucks on a sporting event than I do betting a ridiculous number someplace. Plus, I get a better chance of winning. Here's a memo to the Supreme Court. You're doing people a favor, okay, to get that money away from some of the hundreds of millions are going offshore. I know. I've had offshore accounts. I can talk to them about it, okay? I'm willing to discuss it. I'd rather go down and see people I know, do business with them, know it's going to be taxed. I got no problem. I really hope that the Supreme Court allows New Jersey to gamble on sporting events, because that's going to open the floodgates. And then here we go.
Oh, forget about it. If New Jersey opens up, Pennsylvania, Maryland, they're going to say, what the hell? Where's everybody at on Saturday and Sunday? That's what's going to happen.
Exactly. And you know, Jimmy, you mentioned it the other day to me. Also this weekend, we get the Breeders' Cup.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of people coming into town here at the Sportsplay, because this is one of the, by the way, if you're in Southern California and you've never been to South Point, I'm going to tell you right now, this is one of the best places in Las Vegas to bet the horses. You got your own separate place away from people screaming at touchdowns and interceptions and all that. This is the place. And Mr. Flatter will be going to Dillon.
Yeah, and by the way, if I may make a shameless plug, Mr. Malulo and Patrick McQuiggan are going to get together with me, and I've got Bob Baffert already lined up for the second edition of the Ron Flatter Racing Pod, which will post Friday. And if you haven't heard it yet, the first edition with jockey Mike Smith is right now at vsin.com and Audio Boom.
So you go to vsin.com and you can get this pot, and you're going to go over all the races at Del Mar.
We're going to go over all 13 races, and Bob Baffert will interrupt us to talk to us about his horse.
So 4 races on Friday, and then the other 9, Brent, on Saturday. 2 of the biggest days of the year. We'll do about $9.5 to $10 million on those 13 races here in the state of Nevada alone.
Vincenz, when does the 4 races start on Friday?
It'll be right around midday, Jimmy, because it'll be in the middle of the card. So I want to say right around, I think it's noon, Ron?
I can tell you that
right
time.
Around,
The first Breeders' Cup race on Friday, the card starts at 11:25 Pacific. The first Breeders' Cup race will be at 2:25 Pacific.
Okay.
And then on Saturday, with 9 Breeders' Cup races, the card starts at 10 a.m. at Del Mar, and the first Breeders' Cup race at noon.
Look
now,
at these sheets.
We got sheets here. We got sheets. I got sheets. I got all over the place here. I mean, I got big print, small print. I've already got this thing laid out, and I just have to put in.
And they just drew.
They just drew
it.
they're still actually still drawing.
Still drawing the races
It's a long
now.
process, but for 13 races. So, yeah.
Our racebook manager, Mary Jungers, those kids do a great job. Now, Saturday here, like a lot of other casino sports books and race books in the state, she'll use 2 ballrooms upstairs. There'll be an extra 1,500 or 2,000 people for the Saturday. Friday, she gets about 500 people upstairs.
Okay.
Saturday, close to 2,000, plus there's 200 seats in the racebook here. It is an incredible sight.
It's the best. And again, the Derby is obviously the king in a single race, and then the Triple Cup. But Breeders' Cup here and here at the South Point, having your separate room and the ballroom that Jimmy mentioned. Oh, it's the
What time the doors open? About 9 o'clock here at the ballroom?
But quickly before I leave here,
Sure.
I can just see you right now with the pencil in your ear, and you got the third at the Breeders' Cup in this ticket. You got Alabama on this side, and they got you spinning around like a top. I mean,
That's a great costume for a
see you later.
All right. We hope you enjoyed our best of edition for this holiday season. And again, happy holidays to you and yours.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com.